Well, first we have to recognize that we can't continue to do it all by ourselves. We can't continue to go it alone and just take on more and more tasks and responsibilities. That the need is very great for us to know how to develop other people as leaders, because we're getting exhausted and overwhelmed, and there's no end in sight to the kinds of issues and problems we're facing as formal leaders. So that's the bad news, or maybe it's the good news, but it's the reality of this time. And then the good news is that I feel absolutely sure that leaders are made, not born, and they're made by connecting to something that they care about. So all of us have the potential to be leaders for a particular issue or a particular problem. That's why I use the definition that a leader is anyone willing to help, because I've seen hundreds of thousands of people step forward when they care about something. So whether they care about what's happening to their child, what's happening in their child's school, what's happening in their neighborhood, what's happening in their nation or the world, but it's that connection between seeing something that won't let you go and then realizing, well, I'm the one who has to take action. That's how leadership begins. But then for formal leaders to actually know they can count on that dynamic, that they have to just create opportunities for when people step forward, take that first step into leadership, then to support them through multiple ways, which I will talk about today. Our traditional approach to solving problems is to put up a flip chart and write down every issue that people name, every problem. And we've known for many years that that's a very depressing process, that people's energy just goes really flat, and we're just sitting there staring at a list of unsolvable problems. The very process of listing problems takes away our creative energy, and that's well demonstrated. So it doesn't work to say what's wrong and how can we fix it. We've tried that for decades now, and look where we are. We have more and more problems and less fixes, and we're all exhausted. When you change the question to what's possible here, what do you really care about, what would make a difference in your life, not all the things that have been wrong in the past, but what's possible in the future. That releases people's creative energy. It inspires us, and the human spirit is capable of enormous energy and commitment, even under pressure and difficult circumstances. But we have to ask the right questions. So when you go into the what's possible, and then the next part is, well, who cares enough to work on it? That's very important, because people will just, put up dreams, and it has no foundation in who's going to do the work. So the next question always is, so who cares enough to sign up for this? And then the list winnows down, by the way, But you get creativity, you get imagination, all by just switching the question from what's wrong to what's possible. Well, I'm not going to tell one story. I'm going to tell the one good news story from the 21st century, in my estimation, which is the role that women are playing in local, economically impoverished communities in the harshest places, in Southeast Asia, in India, in Africa, in South America, that rural women are just fed up with the men not doing anything, and with what's happening to their children and their children's lives. And so there's been a huge movement and a support of local women through microcredit to actually step forward and make a difference in their community. And we know, and these women are upending centuries of being told they're worthless, they're less valuable than animals, they don't count. And yet when you give women economic means, whether it's, baking something or cooking something or sewing something, and they develop money, We now know that they return 70% of that to the community, and everything improves. The children are healthier, the literacy rate increases, the women learn to read, the children go to school, the whole community starts to look a lot better. And it's all because somebody believed in these women who were just at their wits' end about nothing's changing here, we have to do it ourselves. So that's a worldwide story, very much related to women's empowerment, and it's a very wonderful piece of news from this very difficult century so far. It's actually a wonderful setup. If you don't have to deal with the large bureaucracy and can just focus on small-scale startups, that's where you need a lot of local leadership from unexpected places and people you never thought would be leaders. But it's also the right level of scale. No one gets enthusiastic about going to work for a bureaucracy, and we're all struggling with this increasing bureaucracy that's just taking more and more time to comply with. So the fact that you're doing local startups for me is wonderful. It's where the energy is, it's where you can build community, it's where you can really do work that is immediately meaningful. And what's also obvious is that the role of formal leaders in those startups is to keep the bureaucracy at bay.
Okay.
Try and create the conditions so that people can stay engaged, stay involved, stay energized and creative, and the leader has to deal with all the bureaucratic nonsense that's so prevalent these days.
Unleash the creativity of local leaders.
Absolutely, and it's the perfect level of scale. So I'm very supportive and very glad to hear that that's how you're organizing. That's what I'm recommending to people everywhere. Just forget about the large-scale systems and do your local work now. Because that's where the needs are greatest. It's also where the leadership is most abundant. And then we just have to keep the big bad bureaucracy off of our backs as much as we can.